I never believed in paranormal stories from Reddit until last winter when something started replying to my posts before I even typed them. Even now, while writing this, my hands are shaking because part of me thinks it can still see this. My name is Ethan Walker. I'm 26 years old, and until 5 months ago, I worked night security at a storage facility outside Columbus, Ohio. The job was painfully boring most nights. I sat alone in a tiny office watching security cameras while trucks passed occasionally on the highway nearby. To stay awake, I spent most nights scrolling through Reddit horror threads, especially stories involving haunted houses, missing people, and weird internet mysteries. I used to laugh at people who claimed strange things happened online because I always believed there had to be a logical explanation. That changed on November 14th at exactly 2:17 a.m. I remember the time because the digital clock on my desk stopped working at the exact moment everything started. That night was freezing cold, and heavy snow covered the empty storage lot outside. Around 2 a.m., I opened Reddit and found a strange new post trending on a horror subreddit titled, "Has anyone seen this user before?" The post only contained a screenshot of deleted comment from an account called Watching Underthink for Always. Every comment was disturbing. One simply said, "I can see you reading this." Another said, "Turn around slowly." Thousands of people in the comments assumed it was just creepy roleplay or viral marketing, but one comment near the top caught my attention. Someone wrote, "Don't reply to the account. It somehow knows personal details." I laughed quietly to myself and clicked the account profile. Almost every post was deleted except one sentence written repeatedly hundreds of times across the page. "I see you, Ethan." The moment I read my name, the lights inside the security office flickered once. My stomach immediately tightened. I stared at the screen thinking maybe I was imagining things, but my name was definitely there. Ethan. I quickly refreshed the page. The text disappeared completely. My heartbeat sped up a little, but I convinced myself someone online was trolling me somehow. Probably random coincidence. Still unsettled, I opened a new Reddit post and jokingly typed, "Very funny. Who is this?" Before I could even hit submit, a notification appeared instantly. A direct reply from Watching__always. My blood ran cold when I read it. "Behind you." I spun around so fast my chair tipped backward. The office behind me was empty except for filing cabinets and a coffee machine. But one thing immediately terrified me. The office door behind my desk was slightly open now. I always kept it closed because freezing air came through the hallway outside. Slowly, I stood up and walked toward it. The hallway beyond was dark except for weak emergency lights glowing red along the ceiling. Everything was silent. Too silent. Then I heard footsteps somewhere deep in the building. Slow footsteps dragging across concrete. My chest tightened painfully. "Hello," I called out shakily. No response. The footsteps stopped instantly. I grabbed my flashlight and walked farther into the hallway. Rows of storage unit doors stretched endlessly into darkness. The smell of cold metal and dust filled the air. Then my phone vibrated violently in my pocket. Another Reddit notification. My hand shook while opening it. Watching__always had replied again. "Second floor." Into the hall. Every hair on my arm stood up. Nobody should have known where I was standing. Suddenly, somewhere upstairs, I heard a loud metal bang echo through the building, followed by what sounded like someone laughing softly. I should have called the police immediately, but stupid curiosity pushed me forward. I climbed the stairs slowly while shining my flashlight ahead. The second floor hallway looked endless in the darkness. Storage doors lined both sides like giant steel coffins. Then I saw something at the far end of the hall. A person standing motionless in the shadows. Tall, thin, completely still. I froze instantly. "Hey," I shouted. No movement. The figure just stood there staring at me from the darkness. Then my flashlight flickered once and died completely. The hallway plunged into darkness. My heart nearly exploded. I slapped the flashlight repeatedly until it flickered back on again. The hallway was empty. The figure was gone. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed again. Another message. Too slow. I ran back downstairs immediately, locked myself inside the security office, and spent the rest of the night staring at the cameras. Around 4 a.m., I finally convinced myself someone was messing with me, using hidden cameras somehow. Maybe another employee. Maybe a hacker. But then camera number 6 suddenly filled with static. A distorted face appeared on the screen for half a second before disappearing again. Pale skin. Empty black eyes. A giant smile. Then all the monitors shut off completely. The office lights died at the same moment. Darkness swallowed everything. Outside, snow slammed violently against the windows while somewhere inside the building I heard metal doors beginning to slam shut one by one. Bang, bang, bang. Each slam moved closer toward my office. My breathing became uncontrollable. Then my computer screen suddenly turned back on by itself. Reddit was already open. A live chat window appeared automatically. Watching unfolding for always, typed one sentence, slowly letter by letter. I found you. Suddenly something slammed hard against the office door. I jumped back screaming. Another slam shook the entire frame. Then another. The handle slowly began turning left and right. Whoever, or whatever, was outside started breathing heavily through the crack beneath the door. Vet breathing. Animal-like breathing. I grabbed a fire extinguisher and backed into the corner while tears formed in my eyes. "Leave me alone," I shouted. The slamming stopped instantly. Complete silence filled the office. Then a new message appeared on the computer screen. "Look at camera 9. Trembling, I turned toward the security monitors as they flickered back to life. Camera 9 showed the hallway directly outside my office. At first it looked empty. Then I noticed someone standing directly behind my chair inside the office. My blood froze completely. Slowly, I turned around. Nobody there. I looked back at the screen. The figure was still standing behind the chair, smiling directly into the camera. Tall, thin, pale face, empty black eyes. Then the figure slowly lifted one finger toward the camera and pointed directly at me. Suddenly, every monitor exploded into static again. At the same moment, something whispered directly beside my ear. "Ethan!" I screamed and swung the fire extinguisher wildly, hitting nothing but air. The whispering laughter that followed sounded inches from my face. I ran out of the office without thinking and sprinted through the dark storage hallways while alarms suddenly began blaring overhead. Red emergency lights flashed across the building like blood. Every storage unit door around me slowly creaked open one by one. Inside each unit stood motionless figures staring silently at me from the darkness. Some looked human, others didn't. One had arms so long its fingers touched the floor. Another had no face at all. They all watched me run past without moving. My phone vibrated again. Another Reddit notification. I nearly dropped the phone when I read it. "Don't stop running." Suddenly footsteps exploded behind me. Fast footsteps. Something sprinting through the darkness toward me. I looked back briefly and saw a pale figure crawling across the ceiling upside down with limbs bending unnaturally fast. It moved like a spider. Its giant smile stretched across almost its entire face while black liquid poured from its eyes. I screamed and ran harder than I ever had in my life. The creature chased me through the hallways laughing in broken human voices stolen from different people. "Ethan," one voice whispered, sounding exactly like my dead grandfather. "Why are you running?" Another voice laughed, sounding exactly like my ex-girlfriend. I reached the exit stairwell and slammed the heavy metal door behind me. Instantly, the pounding started on the other side. Massive, violent impacts dented the steel inward while the creature shrieked horribly. I stumbled downstairs toward the parking lot exit, but when I reached the first floor, the stairwell door slowly opened by itself. The storage facility beyond looked wrong now. Endless. Darker. The hallways stretched impossibly far, while hundreds of pale faces peeked from inside open storage units. Then every face smiled together at the exact same moment. My phone vibrated one final time. "You shouldn't have answered." Suddenly all the lights died completely. Something grabbed my ankle from the darkness beneath the stairs. Ice-cold fingers wrapped tightly around my leg, while more hands emerged from underneath the steps grabbing my jacket and arms. I screamed and kicked violently until I broke free and crashed through the emergency exit into the snowy parking lot outside. I ran to my car, shaking uncontrollably while snowstorm wind screamed around me. As I unlocked the driver's door, I accidentally looked back toward the building. Hundreds of figures stood silently behind the storage facility windows, staring down at me. And, standing in the center of them, was the smiling, pale creature from the cameras. Even from across the parking lot, I could see its black, empty eyes locked directly onto mine. I sped away and never returned to that job again. Police later searched the building after I reported everything. But according to them, the security office cameras showed something disturbing. The footage captured me talking to empty hallways all night while running through the building alone in apparent panic. There was no pale creature, no shadow figures, no strange person chasing me. But one detective quietly admitted something before I left the station. Around 2:17 a.m. during their investigation, every computer inside the station briefly displayed the same message at the exact same time. I still see you, Ethan. I deleted my Reddit account after that night and moved to another city, but sometimes late at night my phone still receives notifications from accounts that don't exist anymore. The messages are always short, always the same. Turn around slowly. And the worst part is, sometimes when I do, I swear there's someone standing in the darkness behind me, smiling before disappearing the second I blink. The day it started felt completely normal until the moment Jake Miller screamed my name from the basement in a voice that didn't sound like him at all, tight broken, like he'd just seen something that shouldn't exist. And when I rushed down the stairs of a rented house in Dayton, Ohio, I expected something simple like a leak or a broken pipe, but the second I reached the basement door, I felt it. The air was wrong, colder than upstairs, heavier like it was pressing against my chest, and Jake was standing in the middle of the basement holding a small black camera with shaking hands, the red recording light blinking slowly even though nothing in the basement had power. And he looked at me and said, "Tell me this is yours," but I had never seen that camera before. And that's when I noticed the screen was already on, already recording, already showing the basement we were standing in, but from an angle that didn't exist in real life. And before I could even process that, the camera flickered and switched itself to another angle, showing the basement stairs completely empty, followed by a soft breathing sound coming through the speaker like someone was standing right behind us. And then a whisper came through, clear and close, saying, "Why did you find me?" Which made Jake instantly drop the camera, but the sound didn't stop. It stayed in the room like something invisible was breathing with us. And then the camera changed again, showing the upstairs hallway in real time, where a tall, dark figure stood at the far end facing the wall, completely still. And when it slowly turned its head toward the camera and smiled in a way that was too wide, too wrong, the speaker crackled and said, "You shouldn't have turned me on." And at that exact moment, every light in the house shut off, and the basement door behind us creaked open just slightly like something was waiting on the other side. So we ran upstairs immediately and slammed it shut. But the camera showed something worse. The basement door was already open in the feed from the inside, and something was standing right behind it watching us. And that's when we tried to leave through the front door, but it slammed shut on its own so hard the frame shook. And Jake started panicking, saying this wasn't possible, this wasn't real. But then the camera screen changed again, showing us standing in the living room, while something stood between us, even though in real life nothing was there. And it slowly lifted a finger and pointed at the lens, and the speaker whispered again, "You found me. Now I can leave." And suddenly the basement stairs started shaking violently like something heavy was running upward toward us. So we ran toward the back door, but when we reached it, the camera showed something impossible. The back door was already open, and outside wasn't our backyard anymore. It was a long, dark hallway filled with endless doors stretching into nowhere, and Jake stopped. Suddenly, like his brain had finally understood that the house itself was wrong. And at that moment, all the walls started making faint scratching sound from inside, like something was moving behind them. And I swear I heard my own name whispered from inside the vents, so we turned and ran again, but the hallway stretched longer than it should have, like the house was changing shape while we were inside it. And every mirror we passed showed a different version of us, standing still instead of running, and the camera in my hand kept switching angles faster now. Basement, hallway, kitchen, rooms we weren't even near, each one showing that same tall figure slowly getting closer, no matter where we went, until finally Jake grabbed my arm and screamed that we needed to break the camera. So he tried smashing it against the wall, but it didn't break. It only flickered harder, and the whisper turned into multiple voices now overlapping, saying our names again and again like they were learning how to speak through us. And then the basement door exploded open behind us with a loud crash, and something began crawling up the stairs, slow at first, then faster, dragging something heavy behind it. And the camera showed it clearly even though we couldn't see it directly, a long distorted shape with limbs bending in ways that shouldn't be possible. And Jake screamed and ran toward the front door again, but when he opened it this time, there was no outside street. No world we recognized, just darkness and a hallway that looked exactly like ours but stretched infinitely, and I grabbed him saying we needed to go back upstairs, but the lights flickered one last time and went completely out, and in that darkness the camera speaker whispered directly into the room, "I'm already inside," and then everything went silent, too silent, like even the house had stopped breathing, and then I felt something cold standing right behind me. And Jake's face changed instantly as he looked at something over my shoulder, and before either of us could move, the camera screen turned pure black, and on it, the words slowly appeared. "Now you are part of the recording," and at that exact moment, the basement stairs started running upward again, faster this time, and the last thing I remember was Jake screaming my name as something grabbed him into the darkness, while I ran out of the house into the freezing night without ever looking back. But the worst part is when I finally checked my phone later, there was a video saved in my gallery that I never recorded, and it showed me still standing inside that house staring at the camera, smiling, even though I know I escaped. It started with a wrong turn that I still can't explain, because I was following Google Maps perfectly while driving back alone from my friend's house in rural Texas late at night. But somehow the road I ended up on wasn't showing on any map later, and the moment I noticed something was wrong, the GPS voice said recalculating 3 times in a glitchy tone before going completely silent. And my phone's signal dropped to 0 at the exact same moment the road turned into a long straight stretch, surrounded by thick trees on both sides like a tunnel with no exit. No houses, no lights, just darkness swallowing everything beyond my headlights. And I kept driving thinking I'd eventually reconnect to a highway. But after maybe 20 minutes, there was still nothing except that endless road until finally I saw a faint flickering light in the distance that looked like a gas station sign. And I remember feeling relieved because it was the first sign of life I had seen, but the closer I got, the worse my instincts felt about it because the light was too weak, too yellow, almost like it was dying, and the building itself looked abandoned, even though the open sign was still flickering above the door in broken letters. And there was only one car parked outside, covered in rust like it had been sitting there for years untouched, even though I was sure I hadn't passed any other vehicles on the road. And when I stepped out of my car, the silence was so deep it felt unnatural, like even. Insects had stopped making sound, and the air smelled strange, like wet metal mixed with burnt wood. And I walked toward the gas station door slowly while telling myself it was just an old place, nothing more. But the moment I pushed the door open, it made a sound like it hadn't been opened in a long time. And inside, everything was dimly lit with flickering yellow bulbs, shelves half empty, dust everywhere. And behind the counter stood a man who didn't move at all, just staring straight at me without blinking, and I said, "Hello?" But he didn't respond, and that's when I noticed something worse. His eyes weren't focusing on me. They were slightly off, like he was looking at something standing right behind me. And I slowly turned around expecting nothing, but the glass door behind me showed my reflection standing still, even though I was moving, and my reflection slowly smiled at me first, not me. And when I turned back, the man behind the counter was now gone, even though I didn't hear any footsteps, and suddenly the lights flickered harder, and the shelves started shaking slightly like something underground had moved, and the radio behind the counter turned on by itself, playing static mixed with faint whispering that sounded like my name being repeated. And I backed toward the door, but it slammed shut on its own, locking me inside. And that's when I saw the exit sign, pointing toward a hallway behind the counter that I swear wasn't there before. A narrow, dark passage leading into the back of the building. And from that hallway, I heard slow, dragging footsteps coming closer, So I grabbed a flashlight from my car and stepped behind the counter, even though every instinct told me not to. And the moment I entered the hallway, the air became colder and the walls looked like they were sweating. And every few seconds, I could hear faint knocking from inside the walls themselves, like something trapped was trying to get out. And then I saw the first door on the left slightly open with a dim red light leaking out. And when I pushed it open slowly, I saw a room full of old CCTV monitors showing different angles of the gas station, including the exact moment I walked inside. Except on some screens, I was already inside before I even arrived. And on one monitor, I saw my car still parked outside, but someone was sitting in the driver's seat staring at me through the windshield, even though I knew I came alone. And then the lights in the room flickered and every monitor at once switched to a single camera angle, showing me standing in the hallway, while something tall stood directly behind me. And before I could turn around, I heard a voice behind my ear whisper, "You shouldn't have stopped here." And I ran back toward the exit, but the hallway stretched longer than it should have, like the building was expanding. And every door I passed showed different versions of me, standing still or walking backwards, or just staring at the wall. And the footsteps behind me started speeding up, heavy and wet, like something huge was chasing me. And I finally reached the front counter again, but the exit door was gone completely, replaced by a solid wall with the open sign still flickering above it. And the man from earlier was standing there again, but this time much closer, smiling slightly now. And he said for the first time, "You're already recorded?" And all the CCTV monitors in the room suddenly showed my face from every angle. And then one screen showed something crawling out of the ceiling behind me. I didn't even turn back. I just ran deeper into the building because I knew going outside wasn't an option anymore. And the deeper I went, the more the gas station stopped feeling like a building and started feeling like something alive, breathing slowly, watching me from inside the walls, until I reached a final room with no doors except one small black door in the center marked "Staff Only." And from behind it, I could hear my own voice calling me softly, like it was trying to imitate me perfectly. And when I slowly opened it, the room inside was completely dark except for one camera sitting on a tripod already recording, and the red light blinked once. Then the screen turned on, showing me standing outside the gas station again, as if nothing had happened, except on the screen I was smiling and waving at myself. And the last thing I remember is a hand grabbing my shoulder from behind while the camera voice said, "Take your place." And then everything went black. And now I'm writing this because I woke up back on the road again, sitting in my car, engine running, GPS showing the exact same gas station behind me, even though I swear I never turn around. And sometimes when I check my rearview mirror, I still see someone sitting in my back seat, smiling without blinking.